G'day everybody. Before I initiate today's conversation, which is on leadership, I'd like to thank everybody that responded to the launch of the business, Combined Arms Consulting. Both Peter and I were heartened, really heartened by the number of people that gave us positive feelings and well wishes. Our only hope is that we can live up to your expectations. As discussed 2 weeks ago, we hope to put out a blog every week. Last week, we put out a blog on strategy. It was a written blog, and we got a good reaction. A number of interesting discussion points were raised. However, what we've decided to do is pivot to a video blog. We feel people will find a video much more interesting to look at, and more information can be communicated. Today's discussion is going to be on leadership, generally, but specifically the genesis of effective leadership. In family business, leaders of the next generation tend to be the next generation, the sons and daughters of the founder. Whether they're the most effective people to lead a business isn't as critical as it might be in terms of the family cohesion. The same I've experienced in the tertiary sector, where generally people fulfill a leadership position based upon research and based upon papers published. That might be useful in a research model. Whether or not it's effective in terms of the creative processes that are needed to teach students and support structures for staff is another question. So what is leadership and how does it begin? What constitutes effective leaders? Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, really identified, in my view, the foundation stone of any effective leader. You see, leadership starts from within. In his dystopian world of Auschwitz, he was able to maintain a sense of who he was, irrespective of what the Nazis did to him. He was able to know intrinsically how he saw the world and what was important to him to enable him to survive. And he was able to bring those skills and that self-awareness after the war ended in his work. When we look at the nature of leadership, I would argue the most important person you must lead is yourself. And that can be a challenge because the simple reality is all of us want to be accepted. All of us want to be liked. And many times, and I've experienced this personally, people are willing to subjugate what they stand for simply to go with the flow. I would argue, tragically, many people don't know what they stand for. See, leadership is not about a structure. Leadership is about a sense of purpose, a sense of your own identity, and a sense of values. This is becoming ever more complicated in the world in which we live. Social media has created a plethora of different positions, points of views, and arguments, and sometimes we can be largely pushed down by the screaming of the bully pulpit and not wanting to put our head above the parapet because we fear it being chopped off. Yashar Monk, and I guarantee I've mispronounced the name, wrote a really interesting book called The Identity Trap, where he identified a whole range of different ways people define themselves. And this incredible panoply of different positions and points of view can really make it complicated if you want to lead a group. Are you going to offend somebody by using the wrong pronoun? Do you know if you should say this simply because someone's going to push back against you? Well, the reality is, being an effective leader, you must stand for something. By standing for something, people gravitate towards you because of those values. And people who don't, well, they're not part of the followership. They're not part of the group that wants to adhere to your values and the way you see the world. As a leader or manager within an organization, you've got to be able to stand for something. You've got to be able to articulate that and create a culture where like-minded people are willing to go and work with you. Now, when I use the term like-minded, it doesn't mean they agree with everything you have to say. Ideally, people should be in intellectual conflict. I say like-minded that they understand and accept the values that you propagate. John Cleese, in his work on creativity and his pushback against woke and political correctness, understood the importance of being able to stand for something. Creativity and the capacity to challenge is a foundation stone of leadership, being able to see things in a slightly different way. But if you want to be accepted by everybody, that can be challenging. Because why push against the norm, whatever that norm might be? Now, I'm hoping many of you have an alternate viewpoint to what I've just propagated. And I'm hoping if there's a reaction in the comments section, people are able to exchange ideas and thoughts. The narrative or the key threads of this conversation will be embedded in Combined Arms Consulting website. Please feel free to visit. I'm really interested to know what you think. I have a foundation belief in how I see the world, but embedded within that, I believe everybody has a right or a fundamental element of who they are and how they see the world. And therefore, we're able to exchange ideas and express ourselves in ways that can only enable all of us to move forward. I hope this makes an element of sense. I'm looking forward to getting your reactions. Next week, I'll be exploring the nature of planning. Wish you all the best, and thank you for spending the time to listen to this. Cheers.